It's the SWP Disciple. All right, so I was gonna start it as I walked into the mall, but I figured the sign is worthwhile. Let me zoom it a little bit. Thank you for shopping for 55 years. I think I saw in the paper, it says mall is still open, barely. You can see like Hannos Jewelers, moving sale. I actually, with the owner, they're kind of a big deal here, and they have, that's a chain that stretches down into almost New York, like Southern Connecticut. And I went to school with the daughter, which, and this is just a funny, kind of funny, I guess, tangential discussion. So as you know, my RAV4 that I'm in right now, I guess I can zoom this back regular. You know, I painted the spare tire cover, the rear spoiler, and my wheels aviator gray. And I got that from the Audi TT that she drove back when we were in college, which was aviator gray, that she had brand new, which was like quite a big deal back in those days, you know, to drive like a, I don't know, it was like a $40,000 car or so back in, you know, 98, 99, 2000. But anyway, yeah, that's where I got it from. As you know, I'm quite the sentimental fool, so I like to remember things and kind of like, I don't know, annotate them, I suppose. Now that this is like a research paper, that's where 99 used to be. There's one of the main entrances, the real main entrances in the rear. You can see it looks like Old Navy is already gone. I'm curious as to what's remaining here. So I'm only down here, as you know, I did the video before, like maybe, I don't know, like a month or two ago. Seasons change. This is, I guess, basically an epitaph. Or epilogue, whichever way you want to look at it. I feel like I'm that character from In Living Color. What's his name? I know it ends in Bates. I forget his first name, but he's like using a bunch of big words incorrectly, and then he corrects himself. Should I say, you know, and then he'll say like the wrong word again, but it's just a string of big words that make no sense, but then when you step back from it, it kind of makes sense. He's basically like a play on, it's like Damon Wayans' character from In Living Color, so back in, you know, 1990 to 94. And it's supposed to be a play on like the hoteps that were like, you know, we didn't have the word woke back then, but they're basically woke. And somehow have this like special information and insight on things, yet, you know nothing. You know, we didn't have the word like hotep back then. Like, you remember Martin Lawrence's character from Boomerang, how like, you know, he was talking about the how the game of you know, 8-ball pool is like is racist, and like, you know, the game ends when you knock the black 8-ball off the table, knocked off by the white cue ball or whatever, you know. So it's you know, that's always been a kind of a running theme in the black community, right? Like the pro quacks that we call them, you know, aka pro blacks, or the hoteps, which are, you know, in and of themselves a bit of a joke. Though some of them do some meaningful work, so I don't mean to disparage everyone, but like, you know, just kind of making a somber moment kind of light, for what it's worth. All right, so this will be a quick pass through. It's nothing crazy, since I already kind of did the official walkthrough a couple months ago. There you can see where the cinemas used to be, but they have like long since left. Again, I saw in the local news, they said that some businesses are staying until the bitter end. There are my dirty aviator gray wheels. And you can see like the spoiler and spare tire cover, which it makes no sense with the color scheme. It doesn't really go with whatever that is, gold or sand, but I like it. So there. For all I know, they might not even be open right now, because it is after 8, right? So it wouldn't make sense for them to stay open until 9 p.m. I'm feeling like they might be closed, but I do see this automatic door is open. Sorry about the rattling of my keys, but yeah, so there are some companies that are apparently staying open until the bitter end, which I think is next week. But as you can see, this is a ghost town. So in a lot of ways, this is, and there's like Donovan's. I can remember like 20 years ago working at LensCrafters, and we would go on break there, and some of my managers would actually have a tall boy bear over there and then go right back to work, which we worked with fairly dangerous lens generating like on the surface side equipment. That's like that definitely is not something that you would see in 2023. At least I would hope not. But back in 2002 is a different matter. All right, so I'm not really sure what's going on down here. It looks like these kids have like some kind of like drill practice or something going on. Huh. Is there a barber that's still here? Yeah, it's like they just cleaned up. I do admire those that are staying until the bitter end. They've got to be getting some kind of like discount, as the buzzards circle the carcass. So one little bit of like editorial. So this building, I'm pretty sure was built like in 1961, 62. It was like one of the first malls. But I keep saying that this mall has been a thing. You saw on the sign out there, it said 55. It said 55 years. The news yesterday said 56 years. This is like becoming like Kevin Samuel's age. Like, how old was he? But in any event, I mean, what? So let's say 56. That puts us at what, like 1967? I guess it makes sense though that all right. Oh, I see. It's a dance studio that's over there. Okay, let them practice. Then we've got one of those like chintzy stores that sells a bunch of like low level like Chinese wares or whatever, but I don't know if they're still open. Again, the news yesterday did say that there's a couple stores open. I'm kind of having a hard time seeing which stores. Oh, Rainbow. Well, apparently they're still here. And then as you saw on the sign out there, Hanush, they're still open. Now they have a really nice store like in Fairfield County in Connecticut. This one is like obviously appropriate to the, working class Springfield. So you're going to find, like Citizen watches, probably a Seiko and Movado. Certainly no Grand Seikos, but. All right, so far we have a count of the barber shop, the chintzy wares shop, Hanush, the men's mart. But this is kind of like one of those places that, those them older brothers at church that wear all those like colorful like Easter suits, but it'll be like the middle of August. So this is like where you'd get those kinds of suits. Funny story, we used to have a place called Levine's, which is like an old school clothier. So a lot of their clothes kind of look like that, but it was higher quality, candidly. So I went there one time I don't know why I chose to go there for alterations, but I did with my like a couple Banana Republic suits. And he was like low key telling me like, we get all the, the top sportsmen here and all the, the famous people, they come here for alterations. And it was like an old school clothier that had been there downtown Springfield since probably like 1920 or something like that. I was like, it's closed a long time ago, so maybe at the time it was like 90 years old or so. I think it closed maybe like 10 years ago or so. But he was like low-key telling me that Banana Republic and J. Crew you got, that ain't really nothing. You need to come and get some of this realness over here. So yeah, LC is still here. This is the very one that I used to work at 21 years ago through 2006. So this is like my first real job like while I was in grad school. And all right, the spa is here. So I guess this side has a little more activity. Got antiques and collectibles. I doubt they have any comic books in there though, but always good to check antique shops for comic books because they usually do have some. So one of my colleagues at work, one of the newer hires, he's still kind of like into streetwear and stuff like that and kicks or whatever. So he did say that Eblin's, because he came in with some new Pumas, and he said he got them here and they were like $40-something. So it's a shame I didn't get down here earlier. I'm kind of past the age though of just stacking up just random kicks. When I do buy sneakers, it's like, the shock releases or the ones that you gotta either pay a premium for on eBay or, you get lucky on the Nike app. The sneakers app, and you get them like on the Saturday releases, like the retro Jordans or like a one-off pair of LeBrons or something like that. But still, a deal is a deal, right? This cat's been here for a long time. He used to be like right over there where you see like that wood finish store is right there. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. And it's funny because for a hot second, you know how when you're younger, you just have all these like delusions of grandeur of opening like a little storefront or something. And me and my boy, we kind of thought about opening like a little coffee shop like that. And he was telling us about like the rent and how much volume he has to push for it to make sense. And it was something crazy. Like I think he sells per month. I mean, this was back like 20 years ago, like 5,000 cups of coffee or something like that. I'm like, damn, you don't got carpal tunnel or something? But nice cat. He was like some type of Middle Eastern or maybe Pakistani or something like that. Bluntpark.com. So Blunt Park is it's a city park, so it's like a public park, but it's adjacent to my high school, and this is where Old Navy would be. You can see that they're already kind of in there. It's just empty, but they have it all like kind of like tarped off or whatever, so you can't see what's happening in there. So the word on the street is that let's see, the dollar store, I can't tell if they were still open or not, and whatever EBS is, they're open. So you kind of have a flavor for what's happening here. And then the nail spa looks like it's still open. So all of the like cheap wares, there's like Rainbow, which I don't know, in your town they probably have like a different name for it, like whether it's like Wet Seal or like those places like back in the day when you used to go to a club and whatever girl was adjacent to you, whether it was your girlfriend or your homie or whatever, she was like, yeah, I just gotta go out and get a quick outfit for like $25, which that's like unheard of for a guy. But girls can do that. It's like one of those types of stores where you get like a quick midriff bearing top and like a mini skirt or something like that. That's really disposable. You probably wear it like 2 times and have to throw it away or whatever. But yeah, it's like one of those types of spots. So apparently this cat's still open. Hurst Premier, I don't know if you can see that. I went to high school with him. There, I just zoomed it for you. He's running for mayor. And his wife, who was a pew baby with me. I can remember at age like 12 in church with her. And in fact, you heard me talk about my 89-year-old Sunday school teacher. That's her grandfather. I actually got to pay him a visit pretty soon. I just saw him maybe like a month ago, but he's going to be 90 in September, the day after my birthday. So, you got to count those days as a blessing. But yeah, running for mayor, all the best of luck to them. I don't know if they're going to be able to usurp our incumbent who's been in office for some time. You can easily find that online if you wanted to, because he's kind of like a bigger than the area type of figure in a lot of ways. But yeah, so there's actually more stores here than I thought that were sticking it out until the end. No doubt they got some type of like sweetheart deal to stay here until the end, probably just to keep them all viable so there's actually traffic. And here's another, it says buy sell trade. So this is like a streetwear place. You can see the Supreme sign, and it looks like they have like maybe some airbrushing, some like custom kicks, some dunks, some Jordans or whatever. So you've got about like 3 of those types of stores here. You got a couple cheap wear stores. You've got the dollar store. I think Journey's is gone. Lens Crafters is here because it's kind of like medical adjacent. So they have their own built-in clientele, if you will, or patients, as they like to call them. I wonder where that's going to move, because they've been here since the 90s. So, and they are one of, as small as it looks compared to everything else, it's like one of the higher grossing stores here. I can remember when we crossed the $1 million a year mark back in 2002, 2003. So they've got to be probably maybe in the area of like $3 million out of this store right now. But it's where I got my start. A lot of good times, a lot of not so good times there. I remember my first manager there, from the word go, she just rode me. Like, she just didn't like me. I refuse to call it anything racial because that's like my last resort, but I have no idea. But life is a funny thing. She, had a nervous breakdown some years after that, and then tragically lost her daughter in an accident or something like that. And actually, like, the way I look at things, obviously I don't love that. No one wants that, to her innocent daughter or whatever, but I had a chance to, kind of contribute to the, the GoFundMe for the funeral, blah, 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 and have a quick chat with her. And in her own way, she kind of apologized. Which obviously it's not worth all that, right? Like a life and all that sort of thing, just to say just for just desserts or anything like that. But, I don't know, it's good to be validated sometimes, but, RIP. Yeah, so this here, as you can kind of guess by the configuration, many years ago, this used to be an arcade. And they've tried many things with it, and I guess the latest is I still see stuff in there, so I'm guessing this is one of the last like sacrificial lamb. It's a fitness studio, and yeah, so I'm kind of curious as to what the official date that this building started. I know that malls take a while to build, so I don't doubt that maybe it was around sometime, some years before it actually officially opened for business. But the word on the street is that it's going to be like a multi-function complex, which will still include some retail, but I guess, you know, you guessed it, it's probably going to be like luxury condos or something of the like. It's kind of a weird area because like Springfield, I mean Massachusetts itself is shaped like a big rectangle. Based on the distance to Central Mass from here, I tend to think that maybe Springfield is too. I gotta look at a map or something. So where I'm at in Forest Park, if you got off the highway there, you'd be about 50 miles away from Worcester, which is equidistant between us and Boston. So Boston's the other side of the rectangle, and that little peninsula that hangs off into the Atlantic Ocean, that's like, you know, Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. But from here, so you can see this parking lot, you can see my beater right here, but see this parking lot, this is like the Donovan's parking lot. And then if you continued out there out to the street, and then you just continue along Boston Road right there, which just like it sounds, it literally is before the highway. So pre-Dwight Eisenhower, pre-Ike in the 50s, when there was no highway, that literally was Boston Road, as in it'll take you all the way to Boston, like 90 miles, you know, east. So if you continue there, you go through this small town called Palmer. And then by the time you get onto the Mass Pike, which is, you know how the highways run, right? So it runs even numbers lateral, odd numbers vertical. So it's I-90, which will take you from Boston all the way up to like Washington State on the West Coast if you continued along it. Obviously, it takes on different names as you move. But anyway, by the time you get on the highway, you're like barely 30 miles, like 29 miles away from Worcester. So in other words, where I live is probably a good like 7-8 miles away from here, you know, west, and then coming here is east. So it's a nice strategic spot in the sense of like adjacency. Is that a real word? To Eastern Mass. But in terms of like where everything's happening, like there's no highway that close to here, and then all the other stuff is, you know, that away. So it's kind of a weird place to put a like luxury condos, is what I'm trying to say. Of course, I'm not a city planner. I don't do you know, public planning. Funny thing is, one of my closest friends, my boy Chris up north in Northampton, his wife has a PhD in public planning. I think so does her father, and he's also an engineer. Pretty bright Israeli guy. But yeah, so I probably should chop it up with her and ask her, like, what does that mean? But anyway, I said this wouldn't be long, and of course it dragged on longer than it needed to. So I guess this is goodbye, because I think it's we're already on what is today, the 7th? Yeah, I think today's the 7th. My clock date is my watch date is a little off, but yeah, I guess that is a wrap. I don't know, thanks for the memories. In a lot of ways emblematic of my year. I've checked a lot off the list in terms of like accomplishing certain things. I think I'm about to do a little something for myself. You know, I'll profile that in a little bit. Coming up on my birthday in 2 months or whatever. You can probably guess what that is, but it's been a decent year, you know, in terms for a lot of things, except the one really big thing that's casting a fairly dark cloud over the year. But as I always say, you know, things give thanks. So I do feel for the people who are maybe losing their jobs here or have to be displaced or whatever, but, you know, hopefully they'll land on their feet. I'm kind of familiar with it because my aunt, when Macy's on the other side of the building closed, that, you know, ostensibly retired her. Thankfully for her, she has a support system, and she actually had some savings, which I was surprised given, you know, the type of job that she did, because it was just kind of like a regular, like she wasn't a middle manager or anything like that. She was just a regular worker, though she had been at the company for 30 years or so. But anyway, stay with me. God bless.